needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.
I guess you can call it American resilience. The only reason people still have properties in California is because they are resilient. They tried to take your properties during the first lockdown where they allowed no evictions for over 3 years in California. A lot of people don't know that we didn't have to pay rent until the damn near the end of 2023. Then after the mandates were over, if they wanted your properties along the beaches and in Malibu and in Santa Monica, well, they burnt all your properties down, and now the city took it that way. But if you still had your property from the fires and from the first rent moratorium, well, now they're coming back to try it again. Now, me living in California, working in real estate, I'm actually one of the best equipped people to tell you about what's going on because they literally announced it on the news back in 2020 that this was going to be one of their best opportunities in generations to take over property from people because the state saw how much money landlords are making and they want their cut. They wanted to remove the landlord and become the landlord. Welcome to Commi-fornia.
One labor union, along with CLU and the tenants union, are asking the LA City Council to pass an emergency protection to help families who may face eviction due to the immigration rates. The unions say many families may not be able to cover rent due to a family member who may have been taken by ICE or who have family who may not be able to leave their homes due to fear of kidnapping. The groups claim Latinos make up majority of renters in the city of LA.
If someone in your family is the breadwinner and they break the law and are arrested, you're going to have to move, and it has never been labeled as kidnapping. If your dad sells drugs for a living, or if your dad burglarizes houses or breaks into businesses and that's how he's able to feed you guys and pay your rent, if your father is arrested and you can't pay rent, there was no moratorium in place and you would have to just move out and go stay somewhere else that you can afford. Never has anybody classified that as kidnapping. Being arrested for breaking the law, our laws being enforced upon you, is not kidnapping. She's misrepresenting that so that to get an emotional response, which I don't know why. I don't care how emotional you are, how much you cry, you will obey the law. There is no getting around that. Oh, we're going to throw these laws out the window because people's feelings are hurt. That's not how it works.
They also say local residents have had enough to deal with, from COVID to the economic crisis and our deadly firestorm. Now the raids are creating unnecessary fear.
Nowadays, I mean, you don't know who's a cop,
Right.
who's an ICE agent,
Right.
not who's a bounty hunter. And now I can be dressed as a cop.
Exactly.
And just go kidnap people.
No matter what your legal status it is right now, we are all in fear. I had mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm a naturalized citizen, but my daughter is a born USA citizen and she's scared.
If you are not a citizen and you're here illegally, you should be afraid because you're breaking the law. The fact that the laws were not enforced on you for so long, to the fact that you actually don't think the laws no longer exist, is a miscalculation on your part. It is a personal miscalculation. The laws will be enforced. There is no getting around that. And people keep saying they're being kidnapped. Okay, avoid being kidnapped, self-deport. Don't force us to kidnap you. You know, people, every time everyone's arrested, the first thing they say is, I didn't do nothing. I've never seen anyone who got arrested and they said, I did it. I'm doing it. I'm guilty. They all say the same thing. It's just language to generate sympathy, but that does not work. We've literally let these things go on for so long because it was a rough job, and the logistics about how do you deport criminals was a task that a lot of people didn't want to deal with. We finally have an administration willing to go up against the illegals and do the heavy lifting. So it's going to have to get done. Now, in the wake of that, there will be people that can't afford to pay their rents because the breadwinner's gone. But instead of saying, okay, let's keep the family together, if the dad is deported, even if the kids are born here, the whole family should relocate. The Democrats are worried about losing their constituents. So they're not really worried about keeping families together. They're worried about keeping their voters in the city. So what they're proposing is a eviction moratorium. The problem is, what happens to your landlord when you do not pay rent? See, the eviction moratorium means you don't have to pay rent, but there's not going to be a moratorium for the banks that your landlord has to pay a mortgage to. So what happens? Your landlord will eventually fall behind and lose the property to foreclosure. So what the city does is it will make a resolution where the city or the state would have the first right of refusal. So that means that the state can come in with their offer, and only if they don't want the property will you be able to sell it to another buyer or another investor. That's the city now taking over your property. Now, once they own it, they can turn it into low income property. They can make it low income housing, they can charge you less, but they're going to subsidize it from the government. And yes, the place is worth $3,000 a month. You're going to pay $1,000 instead of $3,000, but then they're going to get the other $2,000 from the government. That's where Trump's going to have to come in and block that hustle, because that's incentivizing the state. That money used to go to people who were individual private landowners. Now they want that money to go to the state. That's when the state owns the means of production and they own the properties. That's communism. That's not capitalism. That means you're now competing with the state, or the state is the owner. That's not what we're supposed to be against that in the United States. But just to keep their voters, they're willing to go further and further with this communist push in California.
While groups are making these demands, the LA City Council is looking to take action against the federal government due to the immigration raids. Last week, 7 city council members signed a proposal asking the city attorney to take immediate legal action to protect people from being racially profiled or unlawfully detained. Now, the proposed lawsuit still has to head to 3 council committees for consideration. The full council is expected to vote by the end of the week. Tenants.
Yeah, if you're a property owner in California, you're going to have to sue the city. If they try to implement another eviction moratorium, you're going to have to sue. This time, you're going to have the weight of the federal government. You're going to have Donald Trump behind you. We're going to sue the city of Los Angeles and the state of California to block their moratorium, because essentially their moratorium would go in place to help protect criminals and their families, not renters per se. Because the only reason why these people would be in danger is because their relatives would have been arrested and deported. So this cannot be a consequence of law enforcement. You cannot penalize law enforcement for doing their job to the point where landlords are now going to have to foot the bill. If these people don't pay their rent, they can normally get evicted and you can put in new tenants. However, if there's an eviction moratorium, if they can't pay their rent, you can't move them out and you're stuck paying their rent for them. As in, you're going to have to still pay your mortgage to the bank, and the money that you would get from your tenants to make that mortgage, you're going to now have to pay it out of pocket, which is not fair. That's why I'm explaining to you guys what's going on. Now, to realize the genesis of this, we're going to go back to the year of our Lord 2020, around June. That's when this interview aired. I'll play it for you.
Past 5 years, pouring her money into it to have it fixed up, but she might not be able to hold on to it much longer.
We're very frightened for our futures.
Her tenants are protected by the city's emergency rent freeze during the pandemic, leaving her in a financial hole.
Because in April, I got 0 rent. I had to pay April 2nd installment property taxes to the city or the county. and I'm not getting any rent from May on.
Venice resident Mark Ryavec is in the same boat. He's owned and rented out this duplex for the past 30 years.
The city sets up the conditions for small mom and pop landlords to fail because it lets their tenants not pay their rent, and yet they don't provide any relief to the small mom and pop.
Bingo. Bingo. They do not, the moratorium is not for the landlords to not pay their mortgage, but it's only for the tenants to not pay their rent. They want the landlords to go into foreclosure, and then the city will take the property and buy it for pennies on the dollar because remember, they have the first right of refusal. That's the whole play. That's the scheme on how they take your property in California. And that's why they're using these ICE raids as another. This is before the fires. This is in 2020. That's when this interview is from. The end of summer 2020.
Property owners, and I'm one of them.
And both these property owners tell me they were shocked when they heard LA City Councilman Mike Bonin say this during a teleconference last week.
I also intend on putting in another proposal in the next week or two that asks the city to look at the federal bailout or stimulus funds that we'll be getting as a result of this crisis. And hopefully the federal government will be stepping up with a lot more and using some of that to either buy hotels that go belly up or use that to buy the distressed properties that are absolutely going to be on the market at cheaper prices after this crisis is over.
When he says distressed properties, the only reason why the properties are distressed is because there have been tenants living in them at this point for 6 to 7 months, and they have not paid rent because they have not had to. The moratorium went into place, I believe, in April of 2020. So this is about 5 to 6 months in. These landlords have received no rent from a lot of their tenants. Don't get me wrong. Some tenants were still paying their rent, but once people found out, they couldn't evict you. And it's not just rent. You didn't have to pay for your water bill. You didn't have to pay for your SoCal natural gas bill, and you did not have to pay electricity. Your electricity would not get cut off for 3.5 years, no matter you not paying. So we had free rent, free gas, free electricity. The only thing people in California had to pay for during lockdown that lasted 3.5 years was their Wi-Fi and their internet bill. That's it.
And use that as homeless and affordable housing. It's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper if we purchase stuff that is already there and move people in quickly than if we start from scratch.
When he said that, my jaw just dropped and I gasped. And it's disgusting. He sounds giddy. He sounds excited.
I was disgusted by the attitude. It's highly predatory.
The city has a unique opportunity right now to use federal funds to quickly get people who are on the streets housed.
In a Zoom interview with me,
That's just an excuse. They don't care about getting people housed. They're using immigration enforcement now as their latest excuse. So imagine everything he's saying now, they're going to swap out the homeless with immigrants. That's what they're swapping out because this is all just a land grab. To be honest with you, because the federal government's not going to back them on this, I don't see it working, but they're definitely going to try. Because remember, California is its own country. It's just under a federal umbrella. And Gavin Newsom is the president. So they can do a lot of things, but they just won't have the backing of the federal government, which is really necessary for a lot of these moves. So it's not, hopefully it doesn't get far. Hopefully this resolution doesn't work, but this is just me showing you that they are coming for your properties if you are a landowner. Now, for a lot of people in Los Angeles, we're renters. A lot of people don't own anything. So they think this is in their benefit. Some people are willing, and unfortunately in the United States, they're willing to give up their freedom in exchange for free stuff. But they don't understand the long-term implications on what this means when you go full communist in a city. You think California is looking terrible now. Imagine when it goes full communist and nobody owns anything. and everyone's just a renter. Well, then the incentive to take care of stuff completely goes away. So it gets worse.
Bonin responded to the criticism.
What's your response to them essentially saying you're being predatory by using this emergency to take up their properties?
This is an attempt by the city to prevent predatory behavior. Last time when there was an economic crash, 2008, 2009, hundreds of thousands of residential units across the country were bought up by hedge funds. And as a result, lots of people got evicted.
Bonin tells me if local properties and hotels are inevitably going to go under during this crisis, the city should take advantage and house the homeless at a major discount rather than let those properties fall to venture capitalists.
This may be the best opportunity in a century to add significant affordable housing stock to the city of Los Angeles.
It's crazy. Your life, your family, your legacy, whether your parents passed you down the property or you worked your ass off to buy it yourself, these communists in California, in our government, they see you as the opportunity. They're not creating the opportunity. Their idea of an opportunity is literally forcing you into a financial situation so bad that you're forced to give your property over to them for pennies on the dollar. That's what they consider opportunity. And they can't take it away. They can't do eminent domain on you like they did with the Malibu, with the fires, and they can't do that in the inner city with the places that didn't burn down. So now they're just basically going to basically make it so that you can't pay any of your bills, and they're going to force you out to sell. They're going to break you financially and take what's yours. That's the plan, and we can't let this happen.
They better be in for the fight of their lives because we are going to fight them every tooth and nail.
Bonin tells me the rest of the city council is in favor of this proposal and they're looking to fast track it, but it will ultimately be up to Mayor Garcetti to give it the green light.
Unbelievable. And just to see that it's literally happening again is insane. It's insane. And they're using this as an excuse. Immigration raids, enforcing the law. They want to break the law and steal your property. They want to breach the Constitution in exchange for you for the privilege of being able to enforce the law. That doesn't make sense. But unless somebody like me makes these videos and explains what's happening to you, I'll be honest, I've been on the internet for hours. I couldn't find one person that did a video about this. I can't even find people that make videos about the lockdown. No one wants to tell people that we got all that free money and free stuff for 3.5 years in California. Everyone keeps telling me shh, don't tell people about our hustle. I'm like, I didn't know it was a secret. But unless you're in California, you wouldn't have known. This is what a lot of people did. Now, everybody eventually got evicted and they just had to move to another place. But those property owners have never recovered. I was in LA a week and a half ago and I drove by my old apartment building where I know at least 70% of the people stopped paying their rent for years. And I was like, Jesus Christ, these were luxury apartments where I lived at the Orsini. And I'm like, so it obviously needs a bad paint job, and the grounds don't look as pretty as they used to, and I don't see a lot of staff. And I'm just like, wow, GH Palmer, they took a really big hit with all their properties because no one had to pay rent, but they still had to pay the mortgages. And they're still around, but their budget is probably a lot lower. So that's why you see a lot of things debilitating. Also, because people understand that the governor can just lock you down at any time and they can put in a moratorium, and it's damn near impossible to get somebody out with eviction after 6 months. There are no new investors coming into California buying properties. There's really a lot of people that don't even want to do business there because of what happened during the lockdown. And the fact that we still have the same leadership, Gavin Newsom, and all these Democrat animals that are in our politics, nothing's changed. Until those people are out of office and out of power, California is going to continue to go down because no one's going to trust doing business there. How could you? Because it's not business friendly. It's communist. They want businesses to fold, and then they want the state to take over the gap left by those businesses. If your business closes, the state wants to create a business that does exactly what yours does. So now they don't have to compete with you. They just take over. They take over the means of production. My family's from a communist country. I understand how this works. This is why we hate communists as a capitalist. Share this video with your friends. If you know anybody in California, share this video far and wide. I'm the single boyfriend, right wing Rico or Rico Limbaugh, from play on words from Rush Limbaugh. My Cash App is $ the single boyfriend. If you want to make a donation or support these videos, I do appreciate it. I'm not monetized. This is a new channel, so yeah, this is what's happening right now. Now you know. Now you can prepare. If you are a property owner or if you know somebody who's planning on investing in California, they need to know that it's not going to stop here. They're going to come up with a new excuse every year until they can find a way to make it so that people don't have to pay their rent, and then you are going to have to pay your mortgage and you're going to lose your property. So you might want to think twice about investing anything in California. I mean, even if you do invest, unless you're going to live there yourself, and even if you live there yourself, you can still get a squatter. If you're unlucky enough to have an Airbnb and you get a squatter, you're screwed. And there's really not much you can do. If you get physically violent with the squatter, you can be arrested. They can sue you. It's California. Anything goes. Somebody could literally hurt themselves burglarizing your house, and then they can sue you and they'll win. So you have to be careful when dealing with California. Share this video far and wide. People need to know what's happening. They're using the ICE raids as their next excuse to take your property and seize it from you. This is their form of doing this is a loophole for eminent domain, basically. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I will be back shortly with another video. Share this video. Thank you.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.